Why don't people just do what they're supposed to do? That's probably the number one complaint I've heard in 28 years across thousands of leaders. The challenge is that we think we have execution gaps, but what we actually have are communication failures. John Maxwell said that leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. But influence requires clarity. Ambiguity is the enemy of great results. It creates friction, it creates waste. And the stakes are even higher for solopreneurs and small teams. When you have a team of one, there's just nowhere to hide waste. Now, I'm not saying that this is something that can be overlooked in large organizations, but it's glaringly apparent in smaller organizations and in smaller teams. Again, the challenge we talk about is, why don't people do their job? The real issue is, have we as leaders created clarity and built out a system of alignment? Here's what I want to cover today. I want to give you a rules of engagement framework that transforms ambiguity into clarity. And here's what you'll learn. You'll learn how to create your leadership decoder ring that you can give to your team, and it prevents the majority of leadership frustrations before they happen. This is the same framework I've used personally, and I've used it with almost all of my teams over the last 15 years. Let me start with a story about an Apple Watch that taught me everything about creating clarity and creating trust in a leadership team. So I'm a bit of a nerd, and when Apple came out with the Apple Watch about 10 years ago, I just had to have one. And it was the coolest thing, right? It would get text messages, it would get my calendar alerts, and I embraced it. I loved it. I loved that I could see what was going on at all times just by looking at my wrist. It felt like a Dick Tracy moment. What I didn't realize when I got my Apple Watch is that I was actually setting myself up for failure. Maybe even more importantly, I was setting myself up to be called out. Here's what happened. Now, in my leadership teams, I've always had one-on-one meetings, and those were monthly sessions, and they were the person who I was meeting with. It was their opportunity to use our relationship to help them be more impactful and effective in their role. Now, these meetings were 100% their time, their agenda. And, I had just gotten this new Apple Watch, and I didn't realize how disruptive the notifications were. And George Figueredo was our COO, and George and I were having our monthly one-to-one. And I didn't think anything of it. I just glanced at my watch and saw it was a text message, didn't think anything of it, respond later. Well, George stopped. He said, "Hey, Dusty, I hate to interrupt, but clearly right now, there are things more important than me going on in your world. I'd like to reschedule my one-on-one for a time that's more convenient for you to be fully present." Ouch. He called me out. This was a guy who worked for me, right? How could he do this? He did it because we had clearly established a rules of engagement. I had explicitly stated to him, I commit to being fully present in your time. I had given him explicit permission, not implied, but tacit permission to call me out. And that's exactly what he did. It was a safe place. It was expressly conveyed, and it was part of our operating norms. Now, we didn't get there just because we had some grand ideas. We were very intentional about creating a relationship where not only was that kind of communication safe, but it was expected. Here it is, probably 10 years later, and I still remember that story because I screwed up. I was not the leader I wanted to be. I was not treating him with dignity and respect, what I wanted to convey to him. And he called me out. And it was safe. It was not only appropriate, but it was appreciated. And it's those types of moments that we get to have as leaders where we realize how much more we need to grow. And it led to me creating a rules of engagement framework that I've used since then with my leadership teams to ensure that everybody's on the same page. And here's what this is. This is a framework where we get to convey to others what's in our head about how we want to show up, how we need them to show up, what's important to us, and how we can be most effective working together. I've gone so far as to give this to candidates when they were interviewing for roles to say, hey, this is how I show up as a leader. This is what I expect. This is what you can expect from me. And I want you to know this before you even consider joining this organization. I've always told people when they're interviewing for a role, hey, you should be interviewing us, this company, me as a leader, this organization, just as fiercely as we are interviewing you, because you need to make sure that this is a place where you will feel and be able to contribute at the highest possible level. And if for any reason along this journey, you don't feel like you're able to connect with our purpose, our vision, our mission, our values, then you should opt out. You should withdraw, because this isn't about getting a job. This is about ensuring that you are aligned and can do your best work to create the most value as part of a team, as part of an organization. And so having rules of engagement that allow you as a leader to convey what's inside your head, create clarity and remove ambiguity, it allows for the organization to move further, to move faster, and it allows for your leaders on your teams, the people that you serve, to get out of a place of guessing what's on your mind, guessing what's important, guessing how to make sure that they're doing what it is that you want them to do. And it invites conversation. It invites clarity. And ambiguity is the enemy of great results.